In the 1960s, my mother would drive in to Boston from the South Shore every Friday night. And she'd take us in there to meet my father, who worked at the New England Telephone Company. He'd take us out to a new restaurant every time. And one of the problems was finding a parking space. Boston was a small city, people drove like shit. But we go to Little Italy one time, and there's a parking space in front of George's. My father gets in there and says, my mother asks, we're gonna eat here? There's a parking space here, this is where we're gonna eat. We walk into the restaurant part. There's nobody in it. There's a bunch of guys sitting at a bar, and they all scowl at us. But my mother, we have 6 kids. You know, my father's a respectable man. And my mother says, are you serving food? And I say, yes. Yeah, okay, good, sit down. So it's taking a little bit. We make our order, and someone puts on the jukebox, and Yellowbird comes on. It's my mother's favorite song. And my mother had a great voice. She started singing to it. And all of a sudden, everybody from the bar, these are thick, mean-looking guys. After my brother and I go like, and they come in, and they're all sitting there listening to my mother. And it was just like a sea change, like from being uninvited to being adored. Not us, my mother. And she finished the song, and they applauded. We would go in there all the time, and there was always a parking space in front. My father says, I have the skill for parking. And he did. But this was sort of extraordinary. There was always the same parking space open. And years later, you know, I got older and I didn't accompany my parents because it's just one of those things you didn't do. And one night, I'm a hippie and going to university. And my friend said, let's go to Little Italy. And he said, do you know any place? Because I was a Boston native. They were all from New York, New Jersey, someplace. And I said, yeah, I know this place, George's. So the 4 of us, Frank McGurty, me, and the 2 girls, two women, I can't remember their names. And we went there, and the guy just said, no hippies, get lost. And the guy says, no, older guy, big man, no, it's the Songbird's son. He's welcome anytime. And we go walking in, and he sits down with us and gets us a bottle of wines. Your mother gave us so much pleasure. She'd come in here and sing songs. We request songs. She loves singing. How is she? She's fine. How's her voice? Her voice is still a dream. Ah, that's great. That's great. And we had a great meal, and as I'm walking out, the guy says to me, he says, you know, one of the things that, I said, thank you for this evening. And I said, one of the things I always wondered about was my father, there was always a parking space in front. And the guy says, that's because it was my parking space. And I gave it because your mother was a songbird. And I loved the way she sung Yellowbird. She was a great singer. And as I walk out the door, he says, one last thing, cut your hair. No hippies are allowed in George's. And he was a good old man.